Hi, my name's Zach, and welcome to My Time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of My Time. I'm your host Daniel Thomas. We're in the park today and I'm here with Zach. Zach, how's it going?
Pretty good, you?
Good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you here. I think it's going to be good. We got a lot to talk about.
All right. Ready?
Let's get to it. I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
You're going to ask me 3 questions. Very simple premise, but it's a lot of fun, so let's do it.
All right.
Okay, Zach, my first question for you is, what do you do?
Well, I'm a first-year MET student over at SAS Polytech.
Before you go any further, just explain what MET means.
So MET means Mechanical Engineering Technologist.
Right.
So it's my first year there. And while I'm doing that, I'm also working for the city of Saskatoon.
Nice.
Facility operator.
Right. Okay. Tell us both about the MET program and the facility operator position that you have.
Okay. So with mechanical engineering, like what would you like me to explain?
Or just what type of courses you take,
Okay.
Where you're going to go with it, what it's for,
All right.
what else you need to move forward with it.
Okay. So with mechanical engineering, we take everything from drafting principles to calculus to physics, advanced physics. And basically we learn how to design and everything from HVAC, which is heating, air, ventilation, and a few other things.
Cool.
And so we're basically learning how to basically build the world around us and how to make it better than it already is.
Nice. That's very, very interesting. Does that relate to a facility operator position in any way, or is there something else that you need?
Yeah, actually, so with a facility operator, we're in charge of a 100-ton ammonia plant.
Nice.
So this deals with refrigeration, similar to anyone's refrigerator.
Gotcha.
So it kind of runs on the same premise of thermodynamics, and so basically it removes heat from the slab of concrete. So it's basically a hockey rink.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Well, that's cool. So how long have you been working as a facility operator?
for about 10 years now.
And that's working at a rink and driving Zamboni, right? Yeah, that's a pretty cool job. I think a lot of people want to do that.
I get that all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's the most difficult thing about driving a Zamboni?
The most difficult thing? Probably the first little bit that you drive a Zamboni. The very first time that I actually drove a Zamboni, I ran it into the boards.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's possible, I'm sure. While you're on ice, I'm sure it can go kind of out of control at any time.
Yeah. Well, as I was turning, the hydraulic kind of cut out for a second. And
what other types of things do you do as a facility operator?
we do a lot of base cleaning and stuff like that.
Cool.
So basically, like toilet sinks, mirrors, all your fun janitorial stuff,
Nice.
along with plant checks. So we actually go into the plant room and make sure that the compressors and condensers and all the other systems are working properly.
And the plant room is like the refrigeration system that operates the arena and makes the ice and something like that.
It's part of the system. Everything to do with different types of chemicals that are changing heat.
Cool, man. Okay, tell me something else that you do.
Something else that I do. Let's see here.
Like, I noticed you have a variety of interests. You want to tell us about a few of those?
Well, I skateboard. So I'm a skateboarder.
What type of skateboarding? Is it longboarding or is it shortboard?
No, it's called skateboarding, so not so much longboarding. So you do
I see.
kickflips, ollies, the bases.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is there like a half pipe here in the city that you could practice on?
Well, we have bowls and quarter pipes, so at the Alliance Arena Skate Park, which is pretty much where I go to skate majority of the time. I also play hockey. I love physics.
Physics is cool. I enjoy
calculus,
physics.
All those base things.
Nice.
Yeah.
You've explained to me in the past how skateboarding has helped you with hockey.
Yes.
Can you tell us how that works?
So with skateboarding, a lot of it is endurance orientated. So if you actually ever do pick up a skateboard, which I highly recommend, it's great exercise.
Nice.
But you really build up, how would I say, endurance in longevity. So if you like running, you like doing other things like that, skateboarding works a whole different set of muscles,
Cool.
and you definitely build endurance, and that translates over to hockey. I used to be able to skateboard for about 12 hours a day. When I was younger, and when I first started to play hockey, I could go forever.
Right.
It was, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, like I know I do play hockey myself, and without a little bit of endurance, you don't have much chance.
No.
You're not going to last very long out there.
No.
Well, that's right. It appears that you've very balanced interests, both with mental and physical activities. Why would you say this is important for all of us to have a balanced activity list, both mentally and physically?
In my life, I've always been extremes of things, and so I've been learning balance over time, and it's no different than eating. If you eat to an extreme or you don't eat, you end up with conditions or issues. So having a balanced life, regardless of what you are doing, is probably a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Let's move on to something else that you do in your life.
Like what other things?
No, we'll just go on to the next one. If you find something interesting intellectually,
Yep.
you pursue it, right?
Yeah, I go all out.
You go all out. You go.
If I'm super interested in it, I will go after it. I will learn every single nook and cranny that of types of information, regardless how tedious it is.
Can you give us some examples of the types of things that you've been involved with like that?
Let's see here. Like I like geology. I like calculus. Example, there were a couple questions in calculus that I couldn't figure out.
Right.
So it dealt with a lot of powers and like log functions or ln to the power, like log function.
I vaguely remember calculus, so I kind of know.
Yeah, so basically like learning derivatives and stuff like that, and I could never figure out why we would go up into the power. And so when I was talking to one of my profs, I was asking him all the time, like, hey, like why do we have this? What purpose does this serve? And like I'm pretty sure I spent about 20 minutes asking him consistently why.
Right.
So almost childlike, if you will. I'm sure he was annoyed.
Have you always been this way, or is it something rather new for you?
I've always been this way.
You have?
If I find something interesting, I want to know all about it, and I get a little obsessive or OCD on it.
Nice. What are the personal benefits of pursuing your interests this way?
Well, I find that if you really like to do something and you really enjoy it, like learning about it is probably one of the fundamental basis of understanding it and being able to incorporate it, right? So,
gotcha.
Example, if you want to learn how to skate faster, right, while playing hockey, well, you can go and skate, or you can search, you can Google, you can find a coach, or you can find someone to help you accelerate that process in learning. So you've got lots of resources.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Zach, I think you've got one other thing that you mentioned that you do. Can you tell us what that is?
One other thing that I do. Let's see here.
Under D, your dreams, regarding your dreams.
Oh, okay, regarding my dreams. Okay, so mechanical engineering. My dream is. So there's something I've had since I was a kid, and I can see it, but I don't know how it works.
Okay, just you can imagine it in your mind.
Yeah, you can visualize it. I've always been very good artistically and drawing, and so like very inventor-like mentality. And
nice.
So one of the reasons I'm pursuing mechanical engineering and eventually hopefully aerospace, and I like research and I like building stuff and I like designing stuff. So I want to see if this works. So basically, it would replace your standardized combustion engine.
Which is a necessity right now.
Yes.
We need something like that for sure. So
a lot of changing.
I wish you all the best with that, because I'm sure that's quite an endeavor, like to put yourself into something like that. But if you can do it, then good on you. Good for it. But thanks for that. Thanks for telling me what you do.
Definitely.
And I believe you got a question for me.
Yes, I do, good sir. I do indeed. All right. So, one of the most interesting questions I could come up with is regarding schooling in general, like literally what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So basically, our schooling system is flawed here in our country. You can tell if you. How do I explain it? Basically, if you had the ability to change the system, what would you do? How would you do it?
Well, I got you to give me some examples pertaining to this question, so I knew specifically what you meant by like the flaws in schooling. First off, I'd just like to say one flaw that came to mind personally was that when I got into school, I didn't gain the knowledge on a broader level of how the society works properly, and the secrets behind what we learn when we're older. You know, I feel that it's a necessity that we change the program to consist of things that were such as like economics, finance, for sure. These two things, because this is basically where you're going in life. You're going to try to find some money, right? And you got to figure out how to do it. And if you get the basic knowledge for it when you're younger, you're going to have a better understanding as to the way as it's supposed to be done.
Okay. So would you say like similar classes, similar to like example, learning how to do taxes, something you don't know how to do or understand, right? Like you're not taught that in high school.
Well, it would be taught as a basic understanding of the broad range of necessary subjects that are usually not mentioned, you know, and in the hopes that students will leave with a broader perspective and just be able to incorporate themselves into the world in a way when they leave home, or you know, go to another level of education or whatever, and just like be able to move on, you know, without confusion in their lives, not understanding the basis as to where they're supposed to go.
So if that's the case, so moving forward, let's see here, what would you say, so example, one of the things I've got here or whatever, so basically with school, what's another point that like we have high suicide rates?
Yeah.
A lot of times we see that, and that's why we have not only the fall break halfway through, as well as spring break as well.
Right.
That's why so what would you...
Well, I'd say that a lot of it has to do with the monetary issue of trying to pay for school and the tuition fees. Like you did mention that, tuition levels are way too high in Canada.
Yeah.
This puts a lot of pressure on a starving student. Like, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's got to be close to $10,000 for arts and science. Is it right?
Yeah. About there. Yeah.
But like. Countries such as Norway and Sweden offer high quality of education at a little to no cost. That could be implemented.
Yes.
I mean, taxes would have to be put in place for that, but I mean, it could be necessary in solving a lot of problems. Like a proper system could be put in place to educate and further our society by everybody being able to be educated at a fair rate, you know. And
so increasing the educational level across the board would be
well,
something...
I think it would. I think that I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's
but yeah, like I think it would be like better for our society if we all had an education under our belt to further our understanding of the way things are.
That makes sense. So what's your opinion on standardized testing and how it leaves students feeling like they don't know the material that they've been tested on? You know, sometimes I've had this issue too, where I've gone into exams and I've literally, like your prof tells you, study this material. And one of the first things you learn in first year university is you don't study, you make sure you study it all, because that material that he tells you not to study is probably going to be about anywhere between 40 and 60% on the exam.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. I have a lot of experience with that as well, but I found that in SciAS or SAS Polytech, for instance, in the program I was taking, they were pretty good with telling you what was on the exam.
Yeah, they're very straightforward.
Like we got the basis of the knowledge for it, but I think what you're saying is that these standardized tests aren't telling us the real story, you know, because people might be tested on something that they just don't have the knowledge on, you know, and there's something out there that they should be learning. Like if they don't get the knowledge firsthand to what to study, then that's terrible. Like, I mean,
That's usually on the prof in
And-
general. Like they give you kind of like a broad idea of what you kind of want to study and tell you to focus on one area, but then they test you on another area.
Yeah, if that's the case, then that's terrible. Like, I mean, if you got a prof that's doing that, then well, how are you supposed to grow and become, proficient in this class if you don't know exactly what he wants? But
I've always found that very difficult personally.
yeah, maybe something like a low risk exam would be more appropriate.
As opposed to like the 50 to 55% exams.
That's right, and then it would have more of a comprehensive evaluation.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about standardized testing and the problems with it. But like, I mean, with standardized testing and all the stress it causes, it leads back to suicide rates and stuff because people are having trouble with school and like they're terrible. They're like, it's the end of the world, and it's because it's a really stressful situation.
Definitely, and so leading into that, actually, so we treat post-secondary students kind of like a business fund, don't we? When you really look at it, it's kind of like we're wanting to groom the next, like basically what we're trying to do is groom the next generation to replace the aging generation currently.
Right.
And we're basically giving them PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder, left, right, and center. So, what do you call it? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I completely agree with you. It's necessary that we prepare ourselves for the future, and if we don't, we got to be ready for the repercussions. Like, I mean, I understand that the law, like. A lot of people are going to be retiring really soon, and that leaves, a lot of people with like, okay, I'm just thinking that most people won't be prepared.
No.
I'm not sure how to fix it. The education system needs to be refined in a lot of ways. Replaced, and a new improved version needs to be put in place. With an all-inclusive system at low cost to our society, it could grow to a place we've never envisioned. We can lead the world even more than we do now. This, like the country of Canada. I mean, like we have the potential, but we're obviously failing in a lot of.
We're squandering the opportunity that we're basically given to provide that level of that next step for post-secondary students by not providing free tuition, or at least the first or second year. I find that like even if the first 2 years of university was free, like cost free. So say you don't even do the 4 years and you do 2 years, my thoughts on that is like if everyone had that chance to do that, like just the opportunity, you don't have to, but that opportunity allows people to become educated in areas that they might not be aware of, everything from indigenous studies to geology, understanding basic principles that are not taught in high school. You don't learn it. A lot of those things.
That's right.
So
well, it's a terrible situation. I don't know what the solution is to that one, but that's how she goes sometimes. We'll just have to figure out one way or the other down the road what to do. But I mean, I don't know. Like a free tuition is one way to go. Yeah. We'll see.
Educate our population. Maybe aim for more research orientated, right?
That's
that
right.
Seems to be one of the issues in Canada is we do a lot of outsourcing to different countries and stuff like that, and we don't do a lot of things in house. So by educating our population, we could probably fix that and maybe become more self-reliant, and the ability to help others really starts with ourselves.
Indeed, I agree with you. Let's move on from here. This is good, but like I mean, we got lots to go.
Definitely. So you got another question for me?
Let's do it. Question 2: what don't you do?
What don't I do? Okay, so what I don't do is basically become Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Or a politician, I guess.
Politician, basically, yeah.
Okay, regarding that, do you have a favorite politician, living or dead?
I do. I don't know too much about him other than like during his efforts during World War II, Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Okay, interesting.
A lot. I can't remember the specific quote for it, but his specific quote was for I believe this was him. Don't quote me. For a nation to tax itself into prosperity prosperity is utter foolishness, or something along that lines. Sorry, I don't remember the exact quote, and I believe that was him to say that. I hope it was the right Eisenhower.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's fine. Was there ever a time that you wanted to be a prime minister?
Yes.
When?
Probably a few years back.
Yeah.
So I was playing hockey, and a couple of the guys had like we play against a lot of teams, and if anyone's ever played hockey or a sport, 9 times out of 10, if you play a team enough times, you will hate each other.
Right. Right.
At some point. Yeah, sure, I had a few people that I was disgruntled with, but I got along with basically everyone. And
Nice.
One of the guys had mentioned, he's like, man, you should be a politician. Like, we hate this team. We absolutely hate every single person on it. And you're buddies with them. And I'm like, wow. He's like, you should totally be a politician.
Nice.
And I was like, that's
Maybe,
interesting. Yeah.
maybe.
So, I mean, I've always thought about it because it's interesting because I'm very stubborn in my views, but I'm very flexible if presented correct information to change those views, right? So I'm very like integrity is a huge part of like my idealism and
Good.
who I am as a person.
I
So
admire that.
trying to maintain that is definitely something that's important, especially if you're a politician, which we know
Right.
politicians don't really have.
That's right. If you could pick anyone from anywhere to run our country, who would it be?
I don't think I would pick anyone. I think I would pick someone from the working class.
Okay.
I would pick someone who's
That's a
had
good answer. That's a good
Yeah.
answer. I like that. Let's go on to another thing that you don't do.
So another thing that I don't do is follow people's life path suggestions.
Okay.
So a lot of times in my life I've been told you need to do X, or you need to do Y, or you need to do this or that, or hey, maybe you should do this or whatever. And in the beginning I would look into it, but a lot of times it would always just end up diverting me from finding what I actually wanted to do.
Okay.
And anytime it made it really hard to kind of like speak up for what you wanted to do.
Right.
In life, or like pursuing dreams, and setting goals, and being stubborn with it. And then eventually, as time went on, okay, so basically elementary, as time went on, I just became more and more stubborn, and regardless of what people say, I'm still on track. So
Cool, man.
it might take me an extra amount of time to do it, but
Right.
I'm after it.
Nice. What's the type of person you definitely wouldn't want to take life path suggestions from? What do you think?
Probably as much as I care about the people closest to me and I love them,
Yeah.
probably not them.
Right.
Even though they know me more than I probably know myself, or vice versa. It's more so because they're very influential with what they have to say.
Right.
And I've noticed in a lot of family dynamics or whatever, someone will tell them, oh, well, you should be a doctor. I've seen this with part of my family members, our uncles and stuff like this or whatever, and oh, you should do something really cool, and they became a lawyer, and then the next thing you know, they go and they try it and they do great at it, but they really didn't like it, and then they became a pilot.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
They did the
Like
thing
they
they
follow
really
something-
wanted to do after they
Yeah,
did something that
they-
somebody told them to do.
I think it lasted like 2 or 3 months.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, let's move on to one more thing that you don't do.
Okay. One more thing that I don't do.
Let's go to C.
Okay. So one of the hardest things for me is to accept the amount of time or the reality of the amount of time it takes to do things.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
a lot of times I will want to squish things into I want to do 400 different tasks within a set amount of time, and that's just the way my brain works.
Interesting.
And so I have to learn to pull it back, because basically it's really hard, because I want to get all those things done, because I have a very optimistic point of view.
Right. Okay. One question I have: should our perception, do you think, of time be altered to, make things work better for us? Like in your example, for instance, what do you think?
So in terms of altering our perception of time, like time is relative to the person. If you're having a good day, it goes by very, very quick. You're having a bad day, or you're just like super low energy and you're tired, it's very, very slow.
Well, one other thing, do you find that we experience time changes as we age?
Yes.
As
Yes,
I agree
yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
absolutely. As I get older, time just flies by. My
Yeah.
30s went by in like an
Oh,
instant.
yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I'm kind of scared about that.
Yeah, I'll be 40 in a month. Jeez. Jeez.
Oh,
Anyway,
still young. You got lots of time.
I got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. You're looking pretty good for 40 there, Danny.
Thank you. Tell me one other thing that you don't do.
The things I want to do.
Right. Does this ever bring you down?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of times it does.
Right.
Yeah.
I can imagine it would.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Is it some things or all things you want to do?
Some things are all things. It's more along the lines of there are a lot of things that I want to do, and I find that like social functions and social obligations, which are not only necessary for your mental health and for others, and as well as getting to know people, and networking, and and being close to your friends and family. I also find that I'm very much more of a lone wolf when it comes to learning.
Right.
And that's what I like to do. Is I'm more apt to isolate myself.
Nice.
So when I have those social obligations, or I feel like I need to do these things, it really squanders that time that I have to focus on what I want to do, or what I need to do.
Right.
Right.
So what are some limitations that come up because of this?
Example, you have an exam, right? But your buddies are going out drinking the night beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're younger. It's
Right.
like, oh yeah, well, like I can, you know what? I've studied enough, and you go out or whatever.
Right.
Or you decide to play the video game 1 hour longer, or you decide to, you do one thing a lot longer than you expect, and that kind
Right.
of squanders into that time frame.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, man. Thanks for telling me what you don't do. Do you have another question for me?
Yes, I most certainly do. All right, so one of the other questions I have for you is, again, similar to our school question, but it's about our political system. Basically, it's broken. It's obvious that it's broken. The East always ends up kind of like, basically, the power ends up in the East, and the West is basically left to fend for themselves, regardless of the way you look at it. Everything is decided out East.
Right.
Right?
Right. Okay.
So like Quebec and Ontario, I mean, population density, they win the number of seats, right? Number of seats is based on population density,
Yep.
as far as I remember.
Yep.
And so even with the past or previous election, even though majority of people, the number of votes, were cast towards the Conservatives, the Liberals still got in.
Yeah.
Right? So at what point is that actually a fair representation of the majority?
Yeah,
No longer a fair-
it's hard because we have such a large land representative, like and we can't evenly distribute the power to the amount of land people have. Like, my thought is possibly to have a separate representative for the West and a separate representative for the East, but they would have to come to some sort of agreement on a lot of issues, and that would be a big problem. So I mean,
So you think that would take up more time?
it could be I'm just trying to think. Like the first thing that comes to mind is that's what I would do. But as I thought about it, I thought that issues would come where because conservatives are in the West, liberals are in the East primarily in comparison. So it's really hard to say how it would work. But that was a thought I had.
Okay, so another question, or another, what do you call it? Another example or whatever. It's, I guess we already went through that there. So basically, the polls close early in the East prior to finalizing their counts.
Right.
Right. So this is why we usually end up with a minority. Regardless of which government gets in, we end up with a minority dependent on how the East votes, right? Because they close at a certain time once their votes are in, and then we end up with a minority. It's kind of like the way the Democrats and the Republicans, it's a race to X amount of number of seats, and then they get that kind of done. Whereas they're supposed to close at a select time so that it's unison across the board, but they don't.
Yeah, that was my solution for that problem, to attempt to have the polls open the same time throughout the country. They would have to be open earlier in one place and later in another.
Yeah.
But that would make sense, you know, to solve your issue for sure. So that's what I think about that for sure. But who's to say that these people can coordinate this to happen properly, right?
I've seen good coordination.
Yeah, that's right.
even at the city level.
Indeed.
So, all right. So another issue is accountability with the government. We find that a lot of the way that the Liberals deal with it is to basically pass the buck and repeat the same answer during question period, right? I literally watch this and they repeat the same answer regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah.
So the problem is there's no accountability for the way the money is spent, how they do business whatsoever. I mean, we're giving foreign aid to China. That makes no sense. There's
a lot of things out there that don't make sense with this government, right? And it's difficult because accountability also, in my mind, should be the forefront of our government, so the layperson can respect the person and decide, you know, honestly, whether they're making the right decisions for us or not.
Okay, so would you say that, so example, like when a political party gets into power and they're in power, right?
Right.
And they're doing a poor job, like they're managing brutally, right? Like they're spending money, deficits are going up. At what point, like you should be able to call, not so much like basically it's kind of like a vote of no confidence. And I've never understood this, and I've asked people dozens of questions in regards to this. But how do we get them out? Like, do you have an idea?
How do we get them out? Well, I think the representative of the party should be designated based on accountability, and the basis of that is the most important thing. So if you can be accountable for your actions, then you can be in power. And like, how do we get them out? I mean, reform.
Civil revolution.
Yeah, we're going to reform the system. Like, there's a lot of things. Oh, there's so many things we could talk about. But reform. Reform in the area of accountability is detrimental to our government to earn the trust of citizens and everything that's said and done.
Oh, makes sense.
Anyway, thanks for answering. That was your question.
Thanks for answering my question.
Mistake. Anyway, well, let's talk about the things you didn't do and why you don't do them.
Okay, so why I didn't become
Prime Minister of Canada
or politician.
That's
basically.
right.
So basically, I would love to become like the Prime Minister of Canada. That would be interesting in and of itself. Sure, I'm probably even less qualified than Trudeau, but I mean, at least I don't have a silver spoon and a lot of
that's right
money behind it or people pulling my strings, I guess. But basically, it would require me to be affiliated with a political party. And the problem is you follow a pecking order in a political party, and when you follow that pecking order, it's really hard not to get discouraged because you basically are told how to vote.
Right.
I mean, that's the assumption. That's kind of like what everyone says, basically. But by the time you finally make it to the top, it's a question of whether or not you can get to the top, or whether or not the amount of stuff that is crooked that you need to do to get to the top.
Right.
Which is kind of sickening, and that doesn't sit well with me whatsoever.
I agree with you. I have that same issue. If you could be the leader of a party that does not have immoral means to further themselves, would you be the leader?
I would love to. That would be fun. That would be a little bit interesting, but then again, I'm not perfect either. So
who is? We're
all flawed, right?
Okay. Yeah, what's the first step in making certain honesty is the forefront of our political system?
Honesty? Well, so personally...
And accountability. Absolutely.
I would suggest maybe possibly having a separate, like a separate entity in general. Because like we've got the Senate, useless. Don't even get me started on that. But we've a separate entity to hold them in check, right? It's not power so that they can go around and doing whatever they want. No, they're just specifically put in power I'm assuming probably similar to what Mr. Speaker is or whatever
Mm-hmm.
in Parliament, but a power above them that they can, like, they make no other decision other than the fact that, hey, you messed up, everyone knows about it, you're out.
Right.
And you don't have a say whatsoever.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they can override what that person or like what the political party and hold them accountable. You're spending money, you're doing fraud. Well, guess what? That should be no different than anyone else. Everyone across Canada, including politicians, should be held accountable for their actions.
This is right. Very, very true. We're going to move on to why you don't follow other people's life's path suggestions.
So again, I try to take into account people's opinions just out of respect, especially people closest to me. But sometimes those ideas or those concepts that they bring add to it.
Right.
And sometimes they end up navigating me away and I get distracted. So I will focus on why things don't work. Or example, I want to go to the store. Well, okay, well, be careful. Don't get hit by a car. Now I've got to figure out, like just the way that my brain works. I'm trying to chronicleize all the other issues that were possible issues that may come from it,
Right.
bogging me down. So it's
Right.
another reason why I try not to listen to people's suggestions
Right.
as
Right.
much as I am appreciative of it.
Do you think we have one path or a vast multitude of directions we can go?
I think so. I'm not a believer in fate.
Okay.
I don't believe in it.
Then you
because-
answered my question.
Yeah.
I understand. That's good. It's so uncertain with religion and not religion, like with everything else.
It's a
But
dangerous topic.
it's a dangerous topic. We're not really going to get into it today.
Yeah.
You mentioned something here about being a rebel or a maverick.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so a lot of times, I think I don't know where this stems from, but a lot of it is basically when people tell me to do something, I will subconsciously not do it. And if I think that you're trying to play reverse psychology on me, then I will definitely not do either, and I will find a third option.
Right.
I like to go it alone, so I don't like following the crowd. It doesn't jive with me. I like doing my own thing. So a lot of times you could say that's a maverick because I will follow rules and order and regulations and whatever to the T. But if I find that they are not moral or they're not just in their cause, I can't bring myself to follow it.
Right.
Regardless of how it's like speeding,
Mm-hmm.
right? So defensive driving versus actual like aggressive driving. They say speed is one of the factors for a lot of accidents and stuff like this, but I've seen more chances on Circle Drive of a defensive driver slowing down, causing a bottleneck, and possibly,
An
emerging
accident.
at
Yeah,
60.
exactly.
You should be
I've seen that
accelerating.
happen at the same time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you mean. Let's move on to why you don't accept the reality of the amount of time things take to complete.
Okay, so I have ADHD. So
Tell us just a little bit about that
So ADHD means attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So basically, paying attention for more than 30 seconds while off of medication doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
No.
Okay.
No. So, yeah,
How can time be affected by ADHD?
because you're completely unaware of it.
You're unaware of time.
Unaware of it.
Really?
It doesn't. Yeah. To you, it doesn't. It's such a weird. Like you don't even like the amount of time something takes. You think that someone's going to tell you it takes 20 minutes, and then you look at it and it took you 45 minutes, and it's like, well, why did it take me 45 minutes? You get frustrated with that. So whereas something that you could be passionate about, you could do in 30 seconds or a minute or two or whatever be the case, and it could take someone else 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm,
So the reality of
mm-hmm.
time just doesn't seem to click upstairs.
Right. Okay. Time goes too fast for most people.
Yes.
How do we slow things down?
How do you slow things down? Declutter your life.
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, and tell us why you don't do the things you want to do.
Why I don't do the things I want to do? Because basically societal, financial obligations. Some examples of this are going to school.
Right.
As an adult.
Yeah.
When you go to school, so someone with ADHD, because time is kind of a perception or an issue or whatever, someone who's unmedicated, it's very hard for you to focus on your finances or multitask. It's a weird thing where it's like you're 100% focused on one thing or you're absolutely not focused on anything.
Right.
So you tend to spend a little bit more when you're off of medication than you do when you're on medication. So this can cause an issue because you're gonna consistently run out of funds.
Right.
So how do you go to school when you're not constantly, up on your finances, or you're not up on these things that, I can just go out and spend this here, whereas you should be saving money elsewhere. So basically it's, comes down to money with
a lot of things. With most things.
Yeah. So
right?
like surviving.
Yep.
Market's brutal.
Yep. I got you. Is there a way to make it so a person can find a balance with everything they do and not have any overwhelming issues?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way.
Do we know what it is?
Do I know what it is?
Do you have a suggestion or an example that you could try?
A suggestion on how to.
How do we find balance? Like
how do we find balance?
Declutter. That was a good one.
Decluttering your life. Going a little bit slower. Maybe taking everything in being more moment to moment, as opposed to. It's great to have goals and everything like that in the future, but a lot of times that's daunting.
Right.
I want to be an aerospace engineer down the road. Well, that's daunting. How do you get to that step? How do you so all those little steps. So rather than focusing on that big daunting task, you got to clean the house, right? It's a mess.
Yeah.
Crap.
Uh-huh.
How do you do that? Well, pick up the broom.
Indeed.
Right? Don't even worry about that. Focus on the first thing that's in front of you. Live in the moment a little bit more. I think that's one thing that we tend not to do nowadays, is we tend to take things for granted a lot.
Right.
Whether it be friends, whether it be family, whether it be just the little things that we do in our day-to-day tasks.
Cool, man. Thanks for answering my questions.
Definitely. I got another question for you.
Okay, one more.
So hopefully you're okay with that.
Sure. I am, yeah, for sure.
All right, so this is part of, I think we're on question 3 now, if I remember correctly. So, basically, if you could adjust, change, or create one thing within this country, what would it be? Anything at all?
It would be the decriminalization of all illegal drugs.
Oh, okay.
And the commencement of a program to properly rehabilitate those with addictions and resulting legal problems.
Wow.
All people charged or found dealing with drugs will have their sentences redirected to a rehabilitation program in place of prisons.
Wow.
There would be little fluctuation in taxes, as one system would simply replace the other. The legalization of these drugs may be necessary to start the implementation of the system, but more research is definitely needed into the medical effects of the drugs that are out there, and if there are any medicinal effects that can be found from them. All of these things, with the problem with drugs and the crime that comes from it, if you just got rid of that by making everything legal and making it a health problem more than a legal problem, you'll save tons of lives and money and
resources.
And resources, yeah, absolutely.
The amount of money that
you'll redirect people into a better life, and things will get better. So if there was one thing that I could adjust or change, that's definitely what it would be.
So would you say that's equivalent to the fact that we legalized marijuana here in Canada? And we're already starting to see that in terms of a possibility of that could be a starting point.
That's a start, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, yeah, for sure. You have to start somewhere, and there are other countries that have legalized everything, and decriminalized it anyway. I didn't go into the research of finding out which countries those are, but if Canada were to do something similar, I think it would be beneficial in a big way.
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty neat. That's a really well thought out answer.
That was the easy one. Well, man, thanks for being on the show. This has been really good.
Definitely. Thank you so
much. And maybe we'll have you back one day. You can do a few more things, and we'll get you back talking about them.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
And everybody out there in my timeland, thanks for watching. My name's Daniel Thomas. This has been my time. Until it's your time, goodbye.